Hello everyone! Thank you so much for coming. Today I'm going to be making one of my all-time favorite Korean dishes called KAL-BI-JJIM. It's a Korean style braised beef short ribs, which is probably one of the most luxurious dishes in Korean cuisine because it takes the short ribs, which Koreans consider to be the finest cut of the beef and most delicious. So you will find this dish only on very, very special occasions such as New Year's Day. So without further ado, let's make this incredibly comforting and delicious dish together. I have 1.8 kilograms of beef short ribs here, which I'll be blanching in this boiling water for 5 minutes. So it's been 5 minutes. I'm going to take it to the sink. The process is necessary to get rid of all the impurities in the bones, and just gonna wash off these exposed blood. Now the seasoning sauce. Here I have 1 medium-sized apple pear or Asian pear. So what we're gonna do is puree this pear in a food processor, along with 10 cloves of garlic, that's 55 grams, and 2 thumb-size ginger, and 2 medium-sized onions, and a cup of water to help it puree in the food processor. Okay, so now 3 tablespoons of organic honey. This can be replaced with rice syrup or sugar. And a couple tablespoons of demerara sugar. And other component of the sugar is 3/4 cup of mirin, sweet rice wine. Koreans call it Mirim with an M at the end. Japanese call it Mirin with an N at the end. They're in fact two the same. Now 1 tablespoon of finely ground black pepper and half a cup of soy sauce. You may have to change the level of salt in this dish at the end of the braising process because everybody has a different standard for what is too salty or not enough. And soy sauce is salt. Oh, that's really nice. I mean, of course, fresh garlic and onion is overwhelming right now, but I was checking for the saltiness and the sweetness and overall flavor of this sauce. For this dish, 1.7 kilograms of beef short ribs, I call for 5 cups of water, but because I have Shitake soaking broth, I'm going to use that as part of the liquid. So there's 1 cup, so let's call that 1.5 cups. So I need 2.5 cups more of water. So I'm going to let this boil continuously for half an hour on high heat. This is a 4x6 sheet of dried kelp, also known as Kombu or Da-Shi-Ma, which will now be added to the seasoning stock. Now, the veggies to be added after the braising process. That is 30 minutes of boiling followed by 45 minutes of simmering. I will cut them similar size to that is 400 grams carrots cut into 2-inch pieces that we will use. So you want to make it fancy. You can cut around the corner like this and make a ball. It's one of the most luxurious dishes of Korea, and every part of the makings require a lot of love, and the finished product should look pretty. Let's see. So I'm going to time it for half an hour. Now I have some acorn squash. By the way, this is what it looks like. The traditional recipe for KAL-BI-JJIM calls for chestnuts. I can't find chestnuts. You can skip that altogether, but I am going to use acorn squash today because it's nutty and it offers a similar texture of cooked chestnut. Take out the seeds, just use your hand, cut the skin out. And this is a tricky part. It's really hard. I don't recommend you use this method. You might cut yourself. Just use a vegetable peeler. Slice these up in the size of our other veggies. And I will give it a little shaving and round off the corners. It actually looks like a chestnut when you peel it and shave it like this. Look at that. It takes nothing to make something pretty or more polished. Now, some pearl onions, but I don't have any, so I'm gonna use shallots today. They're a little milder, but really sweet once cooked. You can just use regular onions cut into a quarter, but I like my onions or shallots intact. So that's half an hour mark. At this point, I don't want to add any more water, but I'm going to turn it around. Look at, it's already coming off the bone, but it is still not tender. Now I'm going to move this over to the smaller element and have it on very, very low heat. Simmer for the next 45 minutes. The seasoning sauce has like 10 cloves of garlic already, but then garlics, when they cook, they turn sweet. They're not bitter, they're not so potent. So I would like to add more garlic, but this time they will be added at the last stage because they cook quite fast, and we don't want these cloves to disintegrate. They should be cooked and soft, but still holding the shape. And we have these radishes. Traditionally, you use the larger radish or Daikon or mu in Korean. They're all in different shapes, different varieties. These are one. I'm using these today because I couldn't find any Daikons in the market. These are already rounded off, so it makes it easier. And they're gonna be just perfect for this dish. And then we've got these reconstituted, otherwise they've been soaking in cold water overnight in my fridge. They should be soaking at least for 4 hours, otherwise they're going to be still dry. So these are Shitake mushrooms, and I'm going to cut out the stem because they're tough. These Shitake mushrooms are delicious, and to make it fancy, I cut out a cross V shape, and it creates a nice star. We're gonna need some green onions. We can't find those large green onions that I would like to use, so this is what we have, and I'm going to add these guys at the last minute. I'm gonna add these guys first, then mushrooms and acorn squash, then garlic just after. Wow. The veggies are still quite undone. The meat's looking pretty good. So I will use the next 20 minutes to cook it with the lid open and cook the vegetables, this broth to be reduced by a half. Lift off some of this fat floating on top. The veggies are all very soft now, and I don't want to injure these lovely vegetables. Being very, very gentle. A little fat, especially the fat from short ribs or prime rib area, are very, very tasty. So what I want is, while it's reducing, gently moisten the exposed part of the meats. Oh, look here. I have the garlic. It's soft, but it's intact. And those radishes look like this. It's soaked up all this beautiful broth. I will add this white part of the green onions. Because at this point, everything is done. The only thing is to try and keep the meat moistened while the broth reduces. So I'm going to now give this a little taste. For some people, this would be not salty enough. It could use some salt for me too. But the reason I'm not adding any right now is I want the stock to reduce by a half. Getting prepared to finish it off and serve it. The green onions add nice fresh taste. The traditional recipe calls for some jujubes, which is dried Asian dates, and some pine nuts and egg yolk pancake cut into beautiful diamond shapes. But today we will just use roasted sesame seeds. The aroma in here is intoxicating. I can't wait actually to taste it. Take a bite of this hunk of meat. See, it's still intact, but it's super, ow, that's hot. Super soft. I'm going to taste one of these acorn squashes. Oh, yum. Oh, they are delicious. This is the first time I'm using the acorn squash. I think I will add more next time, just because it is so delicious. Yum. It really works well to replace chestnuts. Wow. So I just had a taste of another butternut squash, and I'm loving it. And the broth, the sauce is now saltier. So you know what I'm going to do? To take the veggies out right now. So I don't want them to disintegrate. Very gently. And next time they'll be added when the stock is being reduced or just before it. So this is what happens when you're cooking. You're always having to improvise. That's it. So I add these in. And finish off with roasted sesame oil, a little drizzle, and you have it. All right, so I'm going to dish this up. Ooh. It's very, very, very tender. There. So I'm gonna add my veggies. If you can only smell this, guys, it's delicious. Yum. Time to dish up a beautiful individual serving for my husband. There's our final dish.
The
Ready?
moment of truth.
Moment of truth.
Look at that. Look at that. It's a very rich and well-balanced juxtaposition of all things flavorful and memorable.
Oh, okay. All right. You want some rice with that?
No, but the potatoes, I'm heading...
There's no potatoes, honey.
I need potatoes.
There's no potatoes.
Well, then of course I need rice. I mean, who can eat a meal without rice or potato?
Okay. All right.
I thought these were potatoes, and that's why I was getting all ready to go in for the strike. And then she disappoints me by telling me it's something else.
It's radish.
Yeah. Do people eat radishes?
Yes, they do. They love it.
Anyway, the meat makes everything memorable. Fantastic. Yeah. Great job.
Okay, good.
Really, it's fantastic.
Moment of truth. This is the part I've been waiting for all this time. Look at how easily it cuts. It's very tender and incredibly moist. Still holds the structure, like so. That's what I was looking for. Seriously, I could eat this every day and I would never get sick of it. It is so delicious. Guys, you must try this recipe at home. Acorn squash. It's very, very delicious, nutty, and flavorful. My God. Silky smooth. Shitake mushrooms are fantastic. You could replace these with just fresh mushrooms. But when the vegetables have been dried and reconstituted, especially these shiitake mushrooms, change the flavor of it. They're more intense, very, very intense. And they also offer that silky, smooth texture. Even if you don't like that texture, do add shiitake mushrooms in this dish because the flavor will change the whole dish. Highly recommend it. This sauce is so lovely. Thanks for watching. I'm going to sit down and enjoy this now.